Hello, my name is Kathleen.
My name is Liliana.
And my name is Ashley.
And we are from MacArthur High School, Irving, Texas, as part of the MacArthur FCCLA 3 chapter. We are participating in the Public Policy Advocate event, and the name of our project is Literacy in Irving, Level 3.
For our FCCLA planning process, we wanted to identify a couple of concerns. Our first concern was about local classrooms and families lacking the resources for young students. Our second concern was children not establishing the crucial skills necessary for development due to the lack of reading. Our goals were to promote literacy among our district, Irving ISD, by proposing a plan that strengthens the Irving Reads 10-minute reading policy and supplying books to students throughout the district. We wanted to include our human services mentor, ourselves obviously, and we wanted to bridge the gap between literacy and poverty in our low-income community. We were to collect these books at MacArthur High School, which we would donate to TJ Lee Elementary, and then the Irving ISD Administration Building, which had a major part in our project. We would collect books from October 26th to December 16th in 2020, and the reason why we wanted to do this was to promote literacy to students in Irving ISD, and we were to do this by making contacts with various Irving ISD administrators by supplying books to children.
So our planning process took multiple steps. Our first one was we first need to research the importance of reading and its effects on children, especially in Irving ISD. And we created a goal to improve the annual 10-minute reading policy that we have that's required in classrooms, but we'd rather improve that to have 30 minutes every month during the advisory period. Identify Irving ISD administrators to make contact with and propose ideas to students and faculty through a petition, gain approval from the MacArthur High School principal, and use her recommendation to other Irving ISD administrators. Our fourth step was to contact the TJ Lee Elementary principal and receive the total number of students there. Then we constructed a Christmas-themed drop-off box to be located at the school library in the month of December. Next, to spread our cause, we designed posters, we created a social media campaign, and gained exposure through our school's broadcasting network. Next, from October 30th to December 16th, we organized the books by reading level and language and loaded them to the group members' homes for delivery. Then we met and delivered the books to TJ Lee and interacted with the students to donate the books. What we could have done better was our communication with Irving ISD administrators. Because of the Zoom meetings, that was not going to work out, so we need to resort to emailing to accommodate their busy schedules. We learned the process of proposing and establishing public policies, more about the gap between literacy and wealth, and we have also learned that children are actually very enthusiastic about reading.
So here's our evidence of online project summary submission. And regarding our issue type, we wanted to have a educational with focus on literacy and level being local of the Irving ISD school district. The relevancy includes our local students and classrooms lacking the resources needed to improve literacy in our community. And because Irving ISD is a low-income community, as it has been impacted with lower literacy rates. And in attempts to combat this problem, our district has tried implementing the Irving Reads 10-minute reading policy, but it was ineffective due to the lack of quality reading time and the lack of books supplying students.
For our issue research, we found out that in Dallas County, the literacy instruction for Texas agency reports that 60% of low-income families have no children's books in their homes, and in 12 years, it is projected that 30% of the projected population will be illiterate. Literacy rates are statistically much lower in low-income cities like our community, Irving, Texas, and in order to combat these literacy rates, Irving ISD has implemented the annual 10-minute reading policy. A few pros of this policy is that it's quick and it doesn't waste much class time. And another pro is that it's pretty easy when not enough books are available to approach this method. A couple of cons of Irving 10-minute read policy is that it's not enough quality time to read, and it does not really cater to students who lack the resources.
In our project, our stakeholders were Deidre Brown, who's the principal of our school, MacArthur High School, Angel Rico, the principal of TJ Lee Elementary, Jackie Gorena, the Chief Learning Officer, and Juan Martinez, Deputy Superintendent of School Operations. Their positions were to improve students' quality of learning and increase standardized test scores. So for our project, we had two important goals. Our first one was to promote literacy among Irving ISD students by proposing a plan that strengthens the Irving Reads 10-minute reading policy. Our next goal was to cater to classrooms and families who lack books by providing each student in Irving ISD with one.
We already know it's undeniable that a child's reading skills are important to their success in school, work, and in life, but with various factors, literacy rates have been decreasing. In light of the children at home and in school who are reading less, literacy rates in our community will continue to drop if we do nothing to alleviate its effects. Irving ISD has made attempts to combat this problem years ago with the annual Irving Reads 10-minute policy, but it is not enough to help students. Requiring them to read 10 minutes every year does not provide them with enough quality reading time, and it is unhelpful to section this time off if they do not have books to begin with. Irving ISD is a low-income community where most of its families lack the resources to provide their children with sufficient reading materials, and its students do not always have books with them for their annual reading. We would like to improve this policy by proposing a plan that implements a monthly 30-minute reading policy and a means to supply every student books every year.
So in the case where we need to leave behind information for individuals in a meeting to know about our goals, our motives, all the information we have, we created this infographic to leave behind for them. It includes statistics of 60% of low-income families having no children's books in their homes, 20% of adults in Dallas County being illiterate. So these would emphasize the concern that we have. And then our goals are detailed at the bottom that we've already explained previously.
So our target audience for our project were kindergartners through 12th grade in Irving ISD. So to reach the target audience of the Irving ISD students, we created a digital form about their opinion on the current Irving Reads reading policy. And we also created a petition for their insight into the improvements we wanted to make. This was the most suitable method to contact to all the students and faculty in our district because due to the pandemic, communication can be very efficient since everyone has access to technology. Our human services mentor, Ms. Rojas, was able to help us email multiple Irving ISD teachers to showcase our Google form on their Canvas pages. Then those who agreed with our proposed policy were asked to sign their name on a separate Google form as a petition to support our new policy. For the younger students who aren't able to fill out a form themselves, we have asked the teachers to give their opinion on behalf of the students.
So in here, one of the opinions that we had on students with the old 10-minute reading policy didn't think that it was effective and that they would want our changes, making the policy longer and letting it be on a monthly basis than having it annually. Another opinion is to make the policy mandatory because right now, currently, the policy is requiring teachers to section off the time, but they wouldn't be kind of like emphasizing or pushing their students to read. And so having them be required to read would help them develop their literacy skills. And then here is one of the opinions of the teachers going over their opinions on our book drive, because in this teacher talks about how it was effective for her students and that their students were engaged in their reading. And this other teacher talks about how the book drive was very effective again, and that the students having their own personal books to enjoy were able to take advantage of their reading time and even wanting more extra reading time. So with all these opinions aside, or together, ultimately our book drive was able to impact our students by having them be encouraged to read and to increase their interest in reading.
A few of our partnerships included Deaja Brown, our MacArthur High School principal, Angel Rico, the TJ Lee principal, Juan Martinez, the Deputy Superintendent of School Operations, and Jackie Gorena, the Chief Learning Officer. Here we have present our communication between us and our MacArthur High School principal, Ms. Brown. As you can see here, we are asking her for permission to start the book drive.
So the first part of our methods of action was, after that email, we needed to present a slideshow to our school principal, Deandra Brown. This took place on October 26th during school hours, and it covered mainly our plan for collecting books for the book drive and how we would eventually test this policy at TJ Lee, the nearby elementary school.
In this email, after we contacted our school principal, we went ahead and contacted our Deputy Superintendent of School Operations, Juan Martinez, telling him our plan with recommendation of our high school principal. And again, we weren't able to do a Zoom meeting, so we had to email him. And the time of this email was October 30th, 2020 at 9:30 a.m. He replied back saying that he was interested in an idea, but since he was busy himself, he forwarded us to another one of his contacts, the Chief of Learning, and the times during these emails were November 1st and November 2nd. In this email, this is when we contacted again the Chief of Learning, Ms. Gorena, and we said the same things about our plan to the superintendent, but we also included our petition and the opinions of students and faculty with the current Irving Reads policy so that we could emphasize our need and concern to promote change. And the time of this email was November 4th, 2020 at 11:35 a.m. She replied saying that she's also interested in our idea, but she recommended that we plan at a small scale before she brings this idea up to her next board meeting. And with that recommendation, we decided to go ahead and continue with our plan to donate to TJ Lee Elementary, because instead of donating to the entire district, it'd be more realistic to test our plan with a local school.
We also had contact with the TJ Lee principal, Mr. Rico. Here you can see in the email how we asked him permission to host a book drive at TJ Lee Elementary. The date of this email and meeting was November 10th, 2020 at 1 p.m. And he answered pretty quickly the same day at 6:42 p.m.
So the media involvement that we used was first an Instagram page to promote the literacy in Irving. Our next was the book donation drive posters that we posted around the school to promote the book drive. And then next is an Irving ISD newsletter that actually showed our book drive being posted at TJ Lee Elementary.
It's shown on the right side. Now, in addition to all those methods, we also was able to have ourselves exposed in our school broadcasting system as shown in this clip here.
Hey, you were a big reader as a kid, right?
Yeah, I have a lot of books that I don't really touch anymore, and I'm not really sure what I should do with them.
Well, I do. If they are in good condition, you can donate them to the book drive that the Family Community Services class is holding.
I heard about that. You can donate your books at room 2009 or in the library.
They will all be going to the TJ Lee's first grade class, and the deadline for donations will be this Friday on the 6th.
Moving on are the results of our advocacy. So our goal was to change the local Irving Reads for 10 minutes policy as shown to be promising. So far, we have gained permission to host a book drive and test our own proposed policy. And according to our Google Forms that were sent out to teachers, and from the experience of our test, we have concluded that the teachers agree it was successful and that policy should be amended. For the future, we are planning to present the results of the test run to our schools district superintendent. And if so, even meet with the school board, and if approved, we could move into trying to implement this amendment policy into all schools of Dallas County. Although the teachers who ran the test are excited about our proposed policy, we're concerned on how our other teachers in our district may react. To counteract this, if it does happen, we would contact the school's principals to see if they would be comfortable with us to do another test run at their school.
Our work in FCS, literacy is an issue that is heavily dependent to family and consumer sciences. Aspects such as personal relationships, childhood development, and education are all integral elements of family and consumer sciences and are directly impacted by childhood literacy rates. Providing children the necessary resources to succeed must include an extensive effort to ensure that children have books. This effort to improve literacy rates must include significant aspects of SVS and an education in childhood development.
So before this project, the three of us actually had, I would say, very little knowledge of public policy, but after this project, we definitely gained a lot from it. The project taught us how to effectively communicate with policymakers and those who play a key role in our education. We also saw how those people in power communicate with each other to make sure that they have all the necessary information before a policy can even be considered. As a collective, we learned how policies are created in our school district and how the process is actually more extensive than we thought of. Firstly, the proposed policy has to be completely thought out in all aspects, then it must be looked over and brought to the school board. Then a test run is performed to see how the policy will run.
So what is one skill that you learned or improved upon during your project that you will use in school next year or in your future career? So during this project, we learned that the skill of communication with those in power. Before this, we had little experience with speaking to people with authority, such as our superintendent. But through this project, we learned how to effectively communicate them with the various school administrators, the various principals and teachers. And overall, this experience was very enlightening to discuss education reform with them who are especially concerned about literacy and the interest in reading. Now, what obstacles caused changes in your work, and how did you address them? So the main obstacles of COVID were communication, and despite having that blocking us from effectively communicating with the administrators or teachers, we thought of different ways to counteract that, and that included writing emails or making the petitions and forms. And by doing so, we were able to effectively communicate with all students and faculty throughout our district, and then propose our policy and then implement it, even though COVID has blocked us from reaching out to each other than if we were in person. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.